Welcome one and all to the Consistent AK podcast. My name's Luke and I'm here as always with Nick.
Howdy.
Presenting you with a podcast centered around pop culture that we do our very best to make consistently okay for you. Each month we give you one episode where we talk about all things pop culture related and break down our thoughts and more on it. Our second monthly episode will be our in-depth series, and this season we are focusing on Batman, from films to animation, where we'll take you on a journey through the highs, lows, ins and outs of the representation of Batman through the years. This week's sponsor comes from the Canned Air podcast. Give them a like, a follow, and support a fellow pop culture podcast. Here they are to tell you more.
Hey, this is Butch Patrick. That's right, Eddie Munster.
Hello, this is Emily Swallow, the armorer from The Mandalorian.
Hi, this is Neil Ross.
Hey, this is Gates McFadden, and I'm listening to the Canned Air podcast.
You're listening to the Canned Air podcast.
And you are listening to the Canned Air podcast. This is the way.
Hello, everyone. I am Jeremy Colley.
I'm Jack Doherty.
And I'm Randy Hardenbrook.
And we are the Canned Air Podcast, your tribute to comics and pop culture. And if you're looking for a comedy, comics, and pop culture podcast that features amazing guests like some of the ones you heard at the top of this commercial, then look no further than the Canned Air Podcast right here on the Evergreen Podcast Network.
All right, so this episode is another in-depth episode. This week, we're joined by Neil from Get Comic Con.
Hi.
We're on the last of the Christopher Nolan Dark Knight trilogy, and it's The Dark Knight Rises, which was out in 2012, which is now many years ago.
Yes.
And I am a lot older and not that much wiser.
Which is also around the time that you and I had the conversation about Dark Knight Rises and Amazing Spider-Man 2.
Yes, at a pub after many drinks. And I still stand by the fact I'm more excited about The Dark Knight Rises than Amazing Spider-Man 2 with Andrew Garfield. So, sure. But it was weird because Dark Knight, I really like Dark Knight, and I enjoyed The Amazing Spider-Man. I'm a huge Spider-Man fan. This is really dangerous territory because just before we start recording this, I haven't seen the new Spider-Man film, so this is really stupid to talk about Spider-Man. But anyway, I was really hyped about The Dark Knight Rises because I really like Bane as a character as well. So I was really excited that we were going to get not Bane from Batman and Robin, or Batman Forever.
Yes, Batman and Robin.
And I was like, that Tom Hardy Bane looks awesome. And I really enjoyed The Dark Knight. So I thought, right, this is going to be great. And I wasn't as hyped for The Amazing Spider-Man 2, but you were, Nick, because Andrew Garfield was in it, and you love Andrew Garfield Spider-Man. Whether he is in the new Spider-Man, I don't know. I have no idea. I'm closing my eyes.
I think my reason for it back then was that The Amazing Spider-Man really surprised me. And I was like, I don't think Dark Knight Rises would surprise me. Which, funnily enough, this viewing did. Back then it didn't, but this viewing did. And I was like, oh, interesting.
Well, let's start there then. And then
I'm intrigued by this.
Tell Neil and I and the listeners more, Nick. Why did it surprise you?
So our last in-depth was Dark Knight. And I think I gave it a 7 out of 10 consistently okays, I think.
I should really remember what I gave it.
I'm pretty sure.
I assume it was higher than that.
A whole year ago. And I was going into this thinking that Rises wasn't as good as Dark Knight. And I was like, I really don't remember it just being that good because I can't really remember much about it. And then as I was watching it, I was like, I actually prefer it to Dark Knight.
Oof.
Yeah. Yeah.
Bold statement.
I know. Like, it's not as good as Batman Begins. Batman Begins is the best of the Nolan trilogy. Like, hands down. It's almost a pitch perfect film. But this one, it's just everything that I sort of had an issue with The Dark Knight that we were talking about, where I felt like Gotham doesn't feel like Gotham, and it sort of frustrates me a little bit that it's Batman and Joker. Like, if you just replaced it with a cop and a detective, I think it works more. It's more interesting, and in terms of a narrative, it's frustrating to have those characters and it not to feel comic booky. And I remembered Rises feeling like an extension of that it just taking it to the next level. But so much of Rises is very comic booky. Like, there's more of a sense of Gotham. It doesn't just feel like any other city. Like, there's a bit more to it. There's some really nice like visual cues as well, like Gotham in the snow and like Catwoman's apartment, something about that as well. I was like, that feels very kind of Gotham. It's quite like run down. The scene where Bruce goes to see her in this I just thought was quite cool. And also I think just having stuff like Wayne Manor back and having a bit more of kind of seeing it through like Gordon Levitt's character, seeing how Batman is kind of like in this world, and there was just something about it where I was like, this feels quite comic booky. And I've still got an issue with it. Like, I still think I think the film's too big in terms of its narrative, but
definitely
I think the things that it does right in terms of the comic book stuff grabs me more than The Dark Knight did, because The Dark Knight just clashed a lot on the last watch, whereas this, I went in thinking, oh, it's not going to be as good, and then I was actually like, oh, I really like that. Yeah, so I was quite surprised.
I actually enjoyed it. I think I enjoyed it a lot more than I thought. I've seen it several times, like I'm sure all of us have, but I actually went into it thinking, I can't remember the bits that I really enjoyed. I mean, we'll talk more about it, but I enjoyed the Bane Batman bits in the sewers. I enjoy that so much. I love the Nightfall comic and stuff. I love all that build up to it. But I remember some other sections dragging, which they didn't so much in this watch when I watched it recently. I don't know if it's because I'm engaging with it more because we're going to talk about it in depth, but there are still some issues. I think it always comes back to me to the bit when he's in the hole in the prison.
Yeah.
Just find it so like it just feels so like such a waste. And I don't know whether I'd want it to be cut out, because obviously it's logical with this film, but just I feel that that whole section, I'm obviously doing exactly what I said I would do, which is jumping way too far ahead before Neil even gets a word in. But I just wish it was, when I was watching, I just thought, I just don't, if I'm going to go and make a cup of tea or something, this is the pit I'm going to do it in, because I've seen it enough times to know that I don't care for it that much. And I wish he was just still in Gotham, or because he just turns up back in Gotham. He's just there, and he just walks in. It's like, oh, hey, Bruce. It's like, oh yeah, I've been away. Like, no one else can get off asylum, but I got in because I can. It's just it just felt so out of place. But I did enjoy a lot more of it. I think it looks great. I think it's the most you get Gotham in the daytime as well, which is also good. I know Gotham should be dark and things, but we've been so, with the Tim Burton films and the Joel Schumacher films, it's also dark. So it's nice, those bits like when Bane's standing on the cars in his big jacket, everybody wanted that fluffy jacket after seeing it. And it was, I still have one. I actually have one. Nice. And it just looks great. And I think it's the best that Gotham looks out of all the Batman films. The Tim Burton stuff with the backgrounds is very good as well, but it just feels a lot more. I think it's because of the football stadium scene as well.
Right.
That scene.
Which is a great scene, and definitely the best line that Bane has with the singing voice bits. So it's, I enjoyed it a lot. What do you think, Neil? I've rambled enough now.
I'm similar, I think, to you, Nick. I've kind of grown to this. I think I saw The Dark Knight at the cinema like 6-7 times. Like, it was that film that everyone was like, I want to see this film with you. And I'm like, yeah, I'll watch it again. And I think I watched it too much. And so I took a very, very long break where I didn't really rewatch it, where I'd watch Batman Begins, or I'd watch The Dark Knight Rises and not go back to The Dark Knight. And I've sort of come to this point where I don't feel like The Dark Knight is a Batman film. I feel like it is what we now know is a typical Chris Nolan film. It just happens to star Batman.
Yeah.
And so I don't even think of it as a comic book movie either, because it's not to me at all. Whereas when I watch Rises, I can see Nightfall, and I can see No Man's Land, and I can see all of my kind of favorite comics from the noughties, like late 90s and the noughties. And I vibe with it a lot more in that respect. And that's not to knock The Dark Knight, because it is an amazing film, but it's an amazing Christopher Nolan film that just happens to have Batman in it. I get more out of this. I even think you were just saying about Catwoman's apartment, that just takes me back to like year one. And that comic book and that era of what Gotham's like in that book. I just feel like you can feel the influences on Rises a lot more than you can with The Dark Knight.
I agree as well. I think I read the other day, I assume it was about Dark Knight, because I can't imagine it being about Rises, but it's just what you both have said, that it's Dark Knight is a Batman film, a superhero film without a superhero. That's what they read it as. Which is true.
Yeah.
So, but Rises does feel definitely more, I guess, but also with the Batman, Catwoman stuff, like those scenes, that does feel like a comic as well, doesn't it? That whole bit feels like an action in comic, whereas you don't get an awful amount of that in Dark Knight. But Dark Knight Rises, it's almost like they reassessed what they liked and didn't like about Dark Knight, and they were like, right, this is how we have to up. And Bane is a bit more of an I know Joker's over the top. It sounds really weird to say it, but he's just insane. He's just like a mass murderer type villain, but Bane feels a bit more like super villain. Like he doesn't have the venom in him, but he's got his mask, and it's a little bit. I don't know. It looks a bit unique, and I mean, man, that sewer scene is just the best. I think it's so good, and I think that's actually what got me more excited about Dark Knight Rises than the Amazing Spider-Man. It's just for the things that they tease. Like the first photo release was Tom Hardy as Bane with his arms crossed in the sewer, and then it was the crack mask.
Yeah.
And then it was like, oh, I wonder. And then you immediately think like, okay, this is gonna be Nightfall. Like Batman is gonna he's gonna get his back broken. It's gonna be awesome. And the fact is that when those two are fighting in that scene as well, there doesn't look like there shouldn't be that much difference, because Batman is, he's Batman, and this isn't like new Batman, or because Batman Begins was new Batman. Dark Knight is like seasoned Batman, and this is like almost, a bit older Batman. He's broken down, but they're in the fight could be pretty even, but Bane just destroys him, and I loved it. I didn't want Batman to lose, obviously. Well, did I? Maybe. I didn't want Batman to lose, but I think it's a really good scene.
Yeah, and I think
we'd not long. Sorry.
Oh, good. You go.
I was going to say we'd not long moved to London when that film came out, so we went and watched the premiere of it. We weren't like, it wasn't. This was long before like podcasting or anything like that, so it's not. We weren't attending it or anything. We just stood outside and watched it, and it was in the middle of Leicester Square in the gardens, and they built a huge stage that was the cracked mask. So they built, and that's like all the cast came out from the back of it through the cowl, but it was just this massive cracked cowl just sitting in the middle of Leicester Square with one of the army tumblers just going around it.
I remember. I wasn't there, but I remember seeing it on the media coverage. Now you say it, that was really cool.
It was so cool. I mean, we were quite far away from it. We were the other side, but looking face on. But even just hearing the rumble from that tumbler just driving around was so cool. So cool.
Nice. Yeah, I think the thing that makes that their fight even more kind of like intense is just like the lack of a score, that it just goes completely quiet. I remember seeing it, doesn't it, as well? I remember seeing that in IMAX, and with IMAX you're just so used to this like big booming sound, and it sort of just cuts that scene, and it's just very visceral. There's no sound other than the two of them just throwing punches and getting hit, and something about it makes it just feel a little bit more kind of like, well, this is fucking heavy, isn't it? It's just, it is a really well done scene. I think as well, I realized with this visually, I think you've sort of entered the Nolan stage of like, how far can I go with things? Like the opening scene is really ballsy to film. And especially to do it with like IMAX cameras and shit. Like, it's just, you've entered that phase where Nolan's like, I've done Inception and I'm just gonna go nuts now, and this is my last thing for Batman, so I'm just going to film as much as I can with IMAX and try and do the most ridiculous things. And I think that probably helps with how Gotham looks. I think it's almost like there's just a confidence, and he's like, this is how it's going to be shown. And yeah, it is just really well done all around, I think.
Do you like the opening scene in Dark Knight Rises more than the opening scene in? I mean, I don't. You weren't that big a fan of the Dark Knight opening scene with Joker in the bank.
The opening scene of the Dark Knight makes more sense. Like, I get what this does as an opening scene, but narratively, it's such a small thing. Like, it's there to cover up the tracks of the guy that they thought was dead. So that at some point, that guy in the thing can go, yeah, he's a physicist that we assumed was dead. It's like a really small thing, whereas the opening of the Dark Knight serves more purpose in that it's like, here's the character of Joker, and this is how batshit crazy he is and how clever he is, that he's convinced all these robbers to kill themselves, as well as then he's like, I'm gonna fucking kill the last people and just take everything and go. And it's not about the money, it's just about chaos. So I think that the opening scene of The Dark Knight is better narratively, but the opening shot of Dark Knight Rises is probably shot better, but it's because it is just like your balls.
Pretty ballsy, yeah.
You've just reminded me of what I think is one of my biggest bugbears with The Dark Knight. And at the end of the opening scene, when the bus pulls out of the bank,
I know what you're going to say.
You hear children on buses, and there's no one on any bus. The buses are empty. There is the sound of children. I'm like, where are the children? What is going on?
Is that and the fact that just no one reacts to this bus pulling out of a bank.
Exactly.
You actually see it. They're just people walking around. It's just like, and like, I don't know. And the police cars are actually going past, or the fire engines are going past in the opposite direction, but there's just dust everywhere.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't know,
weird.
A bit of arming, but yeah, I will say one before I forget, because I don't want to say it, but one of my other favorite bits about Dark Knight Rises is, and we said about this in The Dark Knight and Batman Begins, is Cillian Murphy being in it as Scarecrow again. So good. When he is so good that the only thing I wish is that he was like a full-on Scarecrow attire when he's being a judge, but he does have like he's obviously ruffled up and he's got feathers and stuff. But I remember seeing it when I saw that at cinema. I was so happy he was in it still, because he's been like I think we said before, like I love the fact, I always wished in a lot of superheroes there was always like one B villain that just popped up every now and again, that was like linking all the films. I think I said with the first of the Tom Holland Spider-Man, like I wanted, when I saw Shocker, I always wanted Shocker just to be a part of that trilogy. But that didn't happen. So with Scarecrow, obviously before, I just was so happy that he had a little piece in each film. And it's only small. He's only on it for like 2 minutes maybe.
Yeah, got the.
It's really small, isn't it?
It's really small, but it's just, I love the fact that he's in it. I love the fact that he's the judge, and he's just, I don't know, he's just cemented himself as a crazy villain in this Gotham City. So it's a really good bit.
And his dialogue's great as well, where I think the first time you meet him in it, and he offers the guy death or exile, and the guy's like, exile. Is it the second time that then when he's offered it, he says death by exile?
Yeah, death by exile, and his voice is quite high pitched.
Yeah, it's like he's just completely fucking with people. Like, you're going to face the same thing either way. So I'm basically just screwed.
It seems like he's really enjoying it, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does. Yeah, he does. Yeah. Which is, I just think it's awesome. I love the fact that he was included in all 3 films. So, which obviously would be because he's in like nearly every Christopher Nolan film, or it feels like he is. Him, and because this just came out just after Inception, didn't it?
Yeah.
So like it just feels like they're all there. Like the Inception cast are in The Dark Knight Rises as well, and it's pretty good when you watch. Because I watched Inception recently as well. I think I watched it just before. No, for no reason. It just was on, and I was just like, "Oh, watch Inception." And you got Tom Hardy who's playing like a very suave, like British character in Inception, and then all of a sudden he's Bane, and it was a bit of a switch. But it's hard to wonder what Christopher Nolan saw in Tom Hardy to make him think Bane, because obviously, other than he's pretty well built up, and even Inception. But I mean,
if you look at like Bronson, which
I guess so. Yeah, I didn't think about that at the time, but it's probably Bronson, isn't it, that's done it?
Yeah. I'm not sure. I've read an interview with Nolan where he cited Bronson as being one of the reasons that made him look and think that's Bane.
Okay, yeah, I mean, it makes sense. I didn't even think about Bronson. I was like, I think I've only ever seen that film once.
Because fucking heavy. That's probably
it's heavy. Yeah, but that'll do it. That'd be the reason. I remember the voice and stuff as well with Tom Hardy. I remember people hated it, didn't they? Well, a lot of people did. They really thought it was crazy because you couldn't hear him properly. But I love it.
There was the whole rumor around the fact that there was an earlier cut where it was completely inaudible, and that they'd gone back and redone a lot of it to try and clear it up. I don't know how true that is.
I did wonder that watching this back. There are times where you feel like the audio's been redone, specifically the fight scene between him, because there's no score. When he comes in, there's like a weird like dip in the sound just before he comes in speaking, and then it sort of goes back. It's almost like they had redone it.
Interesting.
But
they probably would have had to redo it when I mean, if it was getting like the cut was getting reviewed like, we can't understand Bane, then the whole film hinges on it, doesn't it? If you can't understand the villain, because we spoke about with what was the film we did recently? Tenet,
yeah,
where you can't. you can't understand like
I mean,
like that the scene in the auditorium, is it? And it's just like, what?
But,
what they say?
The irony is that Nolan has now got to the point where like his films have become louder and louder, and the dialogue's become more inaudible.
They have,
and people are just like, sure, it's a Nolan thing. Like,
we'll just have to wing it. Doesn't help that it's a very confusing film at points that you can't understand what's going on top of it. But I'm glad they changed Bane's audio, because that dialogue, even in the sewer, which obviously I'm in love with the scene, but some of his lines are just because it's just like quick one-liners as he's beating the shit and slowly destroying Batman. And the fact, just go back to that scene now, why not? And the fact that he's fully beaten Batman, like he's just done, and then he's just like, I'm going to break you in half as well, just for shits and giggles. So, and the fact that Catwoman betrayed him, which makes that whole scene even better, because it's like a boss level in a game where it's like the gate's down now, so there's nothing you can do. If you quit the game, when you go back into it, you're in this cave or this sewer, so you're going to have to fight Bane eventually, and there's nothing Batman could do other than try and beat him, but he just doesn't at all.
I was trying to remember as well, because I text Neil about this, that I wish the digital versions had the IMAX scenes, because I couldn't remember whether, I know their fight is in IMAX, but I couldn't remember whether it switches to IMAX once the gate shuts, like whether that's the bit where the screen then gets bigger. Because I remember that happening in IMAX, and the minute the gate shut, I have this kind of memory of like the screen just going ooh, and I remember like, oh my god! Like,
so I saw it in IMAX, and I thought it started when they're in the tunnel and they're avoiding when these like Catwoman, like they're like fighting basically throughout the tunnel.
Yeah, that's what I couldn't remember whether I've like built this thing in my head or whether it is legit that that's the bit where it decides to go. Because the only I definitely know that their fight is in IMAX. Like that is a concrete in there, but I just can't remember whether the preamble stuff is.
I can't remember. That would make it even more like a video game if the I can't remember either. I feel like I remember seeing that tunnel scene in IMAX, but in the like IMAX shot, but I can't remember. Bloody good scene, guys. I could just talk about that for an hour. I won't.
Speaking
go on for too long.
Of Catwoman, how do we all feel about Anne Hathaway's version? Her take.
It's no Michelle Pfeiffer.
Yeah, she's no Michelle Pfeiffer. She's definitely no Michelle Pfeiffer. I've never been a big fan of Anne Hathaway, so when they cast her, I was a bit like,
no, me neither. I agree.
But I do quite like the characterization. I think she did it well.
Yeah,
particularly like when you first meet her, when she's working at the party at Wayne Manor. I love the switch when she takes the tray up to where Bruce is hiding, and he's kind of like, hang on a minute, you were fucking around with my safe, and the face just switches. She did do it well.
Yeah, I
think she plays the role of being like a thief kind of well as well, but I don't like an ass kicking Catwoman or like Craig, because Michelle Pfeiffer is like crazy Catwoman, which I think is a really good Catwoman. Like you don't know, she's like sexy and crazy, and you don't know what you're going to get. She's going to be nice, like when she's dancing with Bruce Wayne at the party in Batman Returns. It's like, Bruce is attracted to her, but she just doesn't know that underneath she's Catwoman. I love all those aspects, but Anne Hathaway's version is like with the stealing of the blueprints and like the pretending to cry in the bar and things like that, so the police don't arrest her. Like those bits I quite like, but I don't like. I think I actually like her more as Catwoman when she's not dressed as Catwoman. I think she's better as Selena Kyle than Catwoman.
Yeah, I think that's probably my take on it, in that I'm much the same as you, Neil. The scene where she switches in Bruce's room, whatever it is, I think she absolutely,
one of many.
Yeah, I think she absolutely nails that. Like there's something about her facial expression and like her tone of voice and stuff. I think that is great. And then I think all the other times that you see her, like when she takes the guy to the bar, I think she's great there, and she pretends to be like crying and distraught, and then she just walks out, and then she does it again, and then she keeps walking. I just think she does that really, really well. But then her stuff as Catwoman, it doesn't feel like it's necessarily a different persona. It's almost like she does Selena Kyle persona of like, I'm gonna act good here and be bad, and then she becomes Catwoman, and it's like she's just sort of middle of the road. Whereas you'd kind of think her being Catwoman, maybe things would be more heightened, that she'd be even more kind of like, I'm in a fucking cat costume, I'm just going to go nuts. I do really like all the little references they give her, like having the cat ears. I think.
Yeah, I was just going to say about that. I like the practical nature of that. That was cool.
Yeah.
And the little like knife blades in the heels of her boots as well.
Yeah, that's really cool. I like that as well.
And like at the scene where she dances with them as well, her like dress, her hat bit has like cat ears as well.
Yeah,
and I was like, it's just, there's a lot of attention.
She has some good lines, doesn't she? I mean, that was like the big bit in the trailer, wasn't it? It's basically Selena Carr's dialogue where she's like, the rich, you're going to feel bad with how rich everyone is and how they're going to fall and everything like that. So I think I definitely like Selena Carr. I like Anne Hathaway as Selena Carr. I just didn't like her as Catwoman, even with, I thought the costume was pretty good and stuff, but I didn't really hit home with me. I did not like the fact that she's the one who basically kills Bane. It made me
although, as Harry pointed out in The Dark Knight, technically it's Bruce that kills him, right? Technically.
Is it?
Well, he gave her the bat pod, right?
No, but that's no. She does it. She kills him.
But with his equipment. Kind of.
Right.
Yeah. I do quite like actually that she kills people. I like that she doesn't hold back. I really like that. Like the scene where she just does cap a few people. I'm like, fair play. Like,
it makes sense for her character, doesn't it? Because she's still on the fence, isn't she? Whereas Bruce shouldn't kill people.
Yeah.
Pretty sure he does during this trilogy a few times.
Yeah.
Definitely kills people, doesn't he?
Definitely.
So just like Affleck's Batman.
The whole storyline with the clean slate, I find.
Yeah. Yes. Good. That's true. That's what frustrates me on this watch.
So she's like, she seems fully committed to like looking after the girl that lives with her and like searching for marks, stealing wallets, watches, and all that stuff, and being a pickpocket, and then going for the rich at the same time, and obviously she was obviously hired to get Bruce's thumbprints and stuff. So she was happy to do all of that, but at the same time, she was doing all of that because she didn't want to be a thief and wanted this mythical thing that we didn't know whether it exists or not. And so I don't know, I've struggled with slightly. She needed better motivation she either needed we didn't need to have any of that, and she was just simply doing what she was doing. The Joker is just causing chaos in The Dark Knight, and Bane is just doing what he's doing. Like they gave her too much, and it didn't quite make sense what they gave her.
Yeah, I agree. They gave her too much of a story that I don't think she needed. I think she could have just been like a thief, and somehow she is. You get the sense of it with the Batman that's coming out. You get the sense that this Catwoman is just, she's doing her own thing, but she just gets thrown into this thing that's going on with Batman and Riddler and Gotham. But they could have easily just put this version of they could have just crossed. Something could have happened where she's in the wrong place at the right time, wrong place at the right time. Man, that doesn't make any sense. What's to say? Stupid. My Norwegian brain is messing with my head. I've lost all versions of English sayings. She could have just been there and something could have happened and she's linked to this story. But I think this clean slate thing, it just felt really I don't know, it just felt like a weekly TV show sort of thing, like something you would get in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. We're after the clean slate, and that would be the whole series. They're trying to get to the clean slates, but it just felt a bit out of place. I agree.
It sort of felt like they'd cut like a bit of the plot, like as if for her to want the clean slate, the natural assumption I sort of go to is that somebody's got something on her and she doesn't like want that out there. Like she wants to start over because of this thing that's happened in the past or something.
Yeah.
Like there is something that kind of gives her that motivation of like, I've done something in my past, or somebody knows this thing in my past and I need it gone because I'm not happy with it. But that element's not there. And so instead you sort of just got this, she's hunting the clean slate because and it feels like a loose way to sort of bring her and Bruce together. Like that, I feel like there is a more interesting way to do it. But yeah, That's probably the biggest thing I think with her character, that I kind of just think they haven't quite padded her out.
That just made me remember something from when I first watched this film that I'd forgotten about. Ben Mendelsohn's character,
Yes.
they only refer to him as Daggett, but there was the character in Batman the Animated Series, I think it's Roland Daggett, who ran like a dodgy, was it a pharmaceutical company, I think, in Gotham. And there are a couple of episodes where Daggett and Catwoman are like pretty much like each other's worst enemy. So there's a whole episode where Daggett is stealing stray cats off the streets of Gotham to experiment on them. And she gets poisoned and nearly dies, and Bruce has to save her. And it's kind of how they get together in Batman the Animated Series. So I remember the first time I watched this film, as soon as someone said his name, I was like, there could be a thing here.
Yeah.
Especially because I think it's his apartment that she goes to break into the safe, thinking that he has the clean slate as well.
Yeah, it was, yeah.
So I just remember thinking that there was going to be more to those two, and that could have given it some more context as well.
Yeah. That's a good scene with Bane as well in Dagger, isn't it? I like that as well, with the hand on the shoulder. The thing. It's just such a holy shit. Like, this guy will destroy you, no matter how powerful you think you are. What did you think?
Cutaway, though, isn't it? Isn't because you don't see him do anything.
No, you don't.
Which is much like the scene that baffles me, where Joker puts the knife in the one guy's mouth, and then it does a weird cutaway and that shock of music where he falls, and you're like, "We only cut his mouth. He didn't like break his
like kill him or whatever."
Yeah, because you think with Dagger, I think isn't the sound like of a neck being twisted?
I think you actually get to hear it at least.
Yeah, so it is weird, isn't it? I don't know why that happens, considering everything else that goes on. And bearing in mind, Batman gets his back broken and stuff. It's a bit strange. Other roles in this film, Joseph Gordon-Levitt. What did you make of him, aka Robin?
So this watch, because when he was first in it, I was like, I love it. I've always loved the end scene, like where he becomes Batman, Robin, whoever he's going to become. I always loved it just because it gives the film the title. Like, I feel like the title can always be assumed that it's around Bane, about like the whole Fire Rises thing. But I really like that the last shot is Gordon-Levitt rising up, and you could be like, well, the reason the film's called Dark Knight Rises is because of him. And I thought that was quite clever. I really like that. Watching this back though, having watched Titans, I really wish they'd just had him as Dick Grayson, because he's not far off the storyline, like minus the Flying Graysons. It feels like they've gone through a lot of effort to sort of give him a bit of Dick Grayson, a little bit of Tim Drake, a little bit of like Jason Todd, as if they tried to just be like, we're not going to let you know he's Robin until right at the end. And then they came to an issue where they're like, well, shit, what do we call him? And they just went, we'll call him Robin. That always felt a little bit like heavy-handed. So I feel like, watching this back, I was like, if you just said he's Dick Grayson, it would have worked so much better. I would have been like, cool.
I agree. I think as well. I think it was. I think they went a kind of a long way around to. I don't think I actually thought much of it when I was watching it, though. I don't think I thought, hey, this is going to be Robin. Like, I don't think I put two and two together, which is like, did you both catch on? Because I don't think I did. If I remember right, anyway.
I did either.
Particularly. I think it was only at the end when they were sort of like wrapping things up. So I thought, maybe he's going to take over the mantle. But I just thought they'll probably pretend he's a new Batman, which you could take either way. But when they said Robin, I was like, Robin. I thought, well, could have done that. Like, definitely on this watch through, or probably the one before as well. I feel like they could have just gone for it. Like, would have been pretty cool.
I think I had a feeling going in, because I feel like it was around the time that I was reading loads of fucking rumors, spoilers, all this shit, which now I just avoid in general. I'm like, whatever. And I feel like somebody at some point had gone, his character is called Blake, not far removed from Drake, and they were like, is it just a ploy that they've given him a false name, and when you watch the film he's going to turn out to be Tim Drake or whoever? And I was like, I could see it, but I always just feel like he obviously doesn't become Robin because Batman's not a thing anymore. So he becomes either Batman or Nightwing. So him having the name Robin is just a bit weird. But I think he does a good performance. He's great in it. I really, really like the scene on the bridge when they blow it. I think his performance there is really fucking good. And I like his conversation as well with the kid when the kid's
I like that as
drawing
well.
The thing.
With the chalk, that's really good as well. I think all of his scenes are pretty good, actually. I actually quite like. I think it's a good. I think the reason maybe they said Robin was because a lot of people that were watching were probably watching it. They didn't know a lot about Batman. They probably just would be like, "Oh, Robin." Whereas if he had been like, "Oh, it's Dick," or "Oh, it's Tim," they'd be like, "That's a solid name."
Oh, cool.
Like, Cool. Why did they leave that till the end to tell us what his first name was? But when they say Robin, it's like, Robin, like that guy. So I think that's, in my head, that's why they did it like that. But I wish they had just gone like full pout, like, not full pout, not saying that Joseph Gordon-Levitt should have been running around in a, Silver Age Robin costume, but just like they could have just said like, his name's Tim or whatever, and you could have slowly gone into a little bit more of it. But I think it worked for the best part, and I think he did really well in the role. I do love the end scene where he's in the Batcave. Like I love the fact that he was like showing basically where to go, and it was like, you're the one who can take up the mantle, basically. So I think he was good. I enjoyed it.
I agree. I think watching it now, having seen it a few times and kind of knowing what the trajectory of the character is, I think you can kind of see that they're sort of setting him up all the way through as he's kind of the White Knight in this version, in that he's the one that's not, he's not a bent cop. He's not being swayed by what Bane's doing. He doesn't believe in anything other than that. He just believes in Batman. And the fact that he'd figured him out from when he was younger as well does suddenly feel a bit sort of Jason Todd-esque or Tim Drake-esque. You can kind of imagine him sort of stealing the wheels off the Batmobile. It did feel like a mix of sort of different Robins for me. But I really liked him, but I do think that last scene is quite heavy-handed, where it's just like completely out of the blue. She's like, "Why don't you use your name?" You're like, "What? What? How is this important to the story at this point?" Although, to be fair, I think the first time I watched it, I was probably on the floor thinking that, like, did he actually die? That I was probably not even paying attention all that much, because I was probably just thinking, did you just kill Batman? Did Christopher Nolan just kill Batman?
But is it, because I remember thinking for ages afterwards that, because wasn't it open to speculation? Like you could either Alfred is imagining that they're there because he wanted it so much, or if they're actually there. But when I sort of read a lot more about it the last week, it was like everyone was just like, oh yeah, and then Alfred sees Bruce and Selina sitting across from him. But I swear at the time, and for a long time, in my head, it was ambiguous, and I always just assumed he just imagined it because he wanted it so much for Bruce that when he was there, he was just imagining what he wanted, and he thought, I'm just going to pretend that Bruce is happy. He's with the last woman that I saw him have any affiliation with, and he can just have his cappuccino, whatever he's drinking, things would be good. But then everyone now is like, yeah, that's the way it was. But I wasn't sure if Christopher had come out and said, yeah, this is the ending. They're there. They're alive.
No, I think you go, Neil.
No, sorry. I just don't think he ever did really come out and say exactly what he thought it was. And I exactly the same as you. I always took it as that's what Alfred wanted to see, and it was up to me to decide whether I felt it was real or not. Because that's Alfred's dialogue. Alfred's dialogue early in the film was that every year, while Bruce was gone, missing, whatever, he went, sat in that exact spot, had that exact drink, and he would imagine seeing Bruce there because I wanted you to be happy. Yeah.
Because they leave breadcrumbs, don't they? Like Lucius Fox saying that they fixed, he realised the autopilot had been fixed. And that was, for me, was like, again, that's what's given me the hope that this was real. But I agree. I took the Alfred lines at the beginning and I thought it didn't actually happen. But now I feel like I'm wrong.
I think it's I think it's the product of coming out post Inception, because I think logically the fact that the autopilot was fixed and they have that scene there is like, oh, well, he fixed it and he made it out. Like, why else would you ever mention the autopilot? Like, there's no reason to bring that through, because you lay that down earlier on where Lucius is like, I could never get the autopilot to work. It needs a better brain than mine. And so you've got that storyline that you're like, well, if Bruce did fix it, why wouldn't he use it? And also then you've got Catwoman's dialogue of like, you don't owe them anything else. And you sort of set all that up on a plate, really. But I think the coming out post Inception and the fact that that scene is filmed a lot like the last scene of Inception, where he goes home and he's like sees his kids and all that, like there is visually it's very similar. And so if you've seen Inception, you sort of are like watching that and you're like, is this like, is Bruce going to start spinning a little thing on the table and it's all going to be a bit like, oh, did he survive, did he not? I think it is a product of that sort of Nolan era of like, is what he's shown us real or is it not? But I think watching this back, it's pretty definitive. You're like, oh, it has to be that he survived, because otherwise the autopilot line is just complete nonsense.
But then logistically, given the fact that not long, like seconds before the explosion, there's a shot of him like close up still sitting in the bat, and the size of the explosion.
Yeah, that's what I think.
I don't know how he quite got away from it.
Yeah.
I mean, he's Batman, so he got away from it, but
it was a pretty big explosion as well. It wasn't like the whole time, like I said, I just thought, I thought that's when he died and he went out on went out like in a blaze of glory, and Alfred just imagined it. But I just think the Lucius Fox line was a plant there, just so you had you think maybe.
I think as well, like Selena being there at the end is like, I feel like if it was a dream, it would just be him seeing Bruce. I don't think you'd see Selena.
But why would Selena give up being Catwoman?
Because she got a clean slate because of him.
I guess so.
So that was the point, is that she still got the clean slate. And she was telling him before they went into the final fight that he should just leave with her. And he does, basically. So I feel like she's the one that's I don't know why Alfred would dream her, basically.
I think it's just so he's happy, because he's going to live. If Bruce is just over there drinking a coffee, he's lonely, isn't he? And Alfred wanted him to grow up and be a happy boy.
But I don't think did Alfred
a girl that he loved
properly meet Selena? Is there a scene between the two of them?
He hands her the tray to take up to Bruce at the party, because he comes in. Alfred comes in and asks where the actual housekeeper is, and she's like, "Oh, I think she's gone somewhere else." And then he hands her the tray to take up to the room. So he has met her at that point, and he knew she was the cat burglar because he was in the Batcave when Bruce was looking at the newspaper stuff about her on the computer.
Yeah, but he didn't know they had a thing, did he?
It's just her sitting in the cafe in her maid outfit, just like,
yeah,
it's okay.
That's my point. Is it's like it.
Maybe it is too perfect. I don't know.
The narrative of the two of them being together doesn't quite happen until that third act and Alfred's gone.
Don't give me your logic, Nick. Neil and I clearly want Batman to die in an explosion. We don't want him to be happy.
Well, I thought it was a really brave thing to do. So kind of at that point where the explosion happens and everyone thinks he's dead and they unveil the statue, like my thought process was, I can't believe he's had the balls to do it. But I feel like for Chris Nolan's version of Batman, that was the perfect way to end him. Yeah, I still like the fact that, like, ignore the ambiguity for a minute, be he dead or alive, I still think that was the right way to end and put a proper full stop on this is Nolan's Batman. Warner Brothers, you ain't bringing this guy back to do anything else that you want to do. But at the time, I was really impressed by the fact that he went through with doing something like that with a character who you would expect to kind of endure and just keep coming back. Yeah.
I think narratively, it makes sense that Batman should die. I think I'm always a big supporter of the idea that I think if you're telling a Batman story and at the end of it he dies, I feel like he's given everything. Because that's always his whole thing, is like he's going to give everything to protect people. And so if you give a storyline that you want to have a definitive Batman ending, kill him, because he's perfect for like sacrifice.
I think you have to kill him, don't you? Because he'll never stop. Gotham would never be safe, would it? That's the thing. That's why he's in most comics. He's old man Bruce as well, because he doesn't have an end, does he? He just wants to keep going. So killing him is the only thing to stop him.
But
this is my theory for Flash as well. This is what's going to happen to Ben Affleck. He is going to sacrifice himself in whatever crisis Barry causes, and Michael Keaton's Batman, who has nothing left to live for on his Earth, is going to come over to ours because we need a Batman.
Yeah, they're saying he's going to be like the Nick Fury, isn't he, of the next DC films, isn't he? He's just going to pop up every now and again in his awesome Batman costume.
My only issue with that, which I've been saying for a while, because I always got the impression they'd kill him off, because I feel like that is the only way you can close off Affleck's run, without it just feeling a bit weird. Especially if you're continuing the rest of the Justice League cast. How do you explain just him? Is as a character, which again sort of leans into this film a little bit. I always think that Batman and Bruce Wayne are like the most miserable bastard you could ever see. Like, the guy is just misery central. Unless you look at like Batman 66 or whatever. But otherwise he is a miserable person. And I feel like for it to work for them to pull Keaton into his new timeline, to give him like a new Earth, I want a film or a short miniseries about him dealing with that. I want to see him basically be like, why should I care about Batgirl? Yeah. Why should I care about this Commissioner Gordon? Which I also never really had a relationship with the previous Commissioner Gordon. Why should I care about helping any of these people out? Because my Earth is gone. So why do I care? Yeah. And I want that, I want him to be that miserable, that it's he's not just cool, I'll go to another Earth and protect everyone because I know everyone here. Nobody he knows is who he knows. Everybody's a different version. So there needs to be that reason for him to be I will train Batgirl. And I think there's a little bit of that in Rises, where narratively their decision where they were Batman's just gonna disappear. He's just gonna be a recluse. And he's not gonna go out on the streets anymore because he's taken the fall for Harvey. I feel like there's a more interesting version of that, where you go, for 8 years he's hunted by the police. For 8 years he's number one, and all of his crime stopping days are challenged by the fact that then he's also having to run away from the police, basically. So everybody's after him. And so then you meet Bruce all these years later, and the reason he's battered and bruised is that he's just everybody's out to get me. Everybody wants a piece of me, and I'm bitter as fuck, and just this Bane guy, fuck it, I don't care. I'll go take him on because I can. And I feel like that just makes it would give him more weight. I've never liked the fact that he just became a recluse. I feel like Batman would still be the one that's I'm still going to go out there and protect the city. I'm just not going to be on the same side as the police, which isn't new because the guy is a vigilante. But yeah, that's always been the thing. But I feel like there is a parallel there that that's quite interesting to kind of strike between the two, just as a character thing. But
yeah.
Who else was new for this film?
I don't think there's anything else new, but I just wanted to talk about Commissioner Gordon, and yes. I think his role is so significant in the trilogy, and I actually really liked his role in this as well. I think Gary Oldman is just a really good Commissioner Gordon. I think he also, I love the opening scene when he's talking is it Celebration? Or he's basically talking about Harvey Dent, isn't he? It's the Harvey Dent event, and I think that's really good. I like the fact he looks a bit withered as well. He's Gotham is just a shithole basically, even after all the stuff, the Harvey Dent stuff, and he looks tired as well, even tireder than Bruce, and obviously he's been through some stuff as well. And there's just so much that I like about his character, even the fact that he's so willing at his point in his career that he's the one running around the streets putting bombs on tanks, and the journey that he's been on throughout it. And when they recap, when he realizes who Batman is, like that full circle thing, when it flashes back to him putting the jacket around Bruce Wayne and his, his line, the I won't be able to remember it now. What's the significant line he says? No, it's Bruce Wayne. Yeah, Bruce Wayne's the one who's talking. Batman's talking, saying like you could, like it could be a man putting a jacket around you, basically.
Yeah,
that's it. That bit is just like, oh man. And I love the fact that even though he's realized who Bruce Wayne is, he's still doing his Batman voice. Like he's still talking to Commissioner Gordon, like, oh, someone who could put a jacket around a little boy who's scared. You can just talk as Bruce now. You don't have to do Batman voice anymore. You can just be like, hey Jim, it's me.
I was saying that because we were watching, I was watching it with my boyfriend, and when we got to the scene where Bruce gives Selina the clean slate and the Batpod, the Batcycle thing, whatever it is, and he's Batman, she's dressed as Catwoman, he's still doing his Batman voice. But I'm like, she knows you're Bruce Wayne, so like, why are you doing it?
Just chill. What he's doing at that cafe, he's still just ordering drinks as Batman.
He's like, coffee,
cappuccino.
So you have to find the character. Do not forget Miranda Tate, Marion Cotillard.
Talia.
Yeah, well, I don't know why I didn't say that. Like, sorry, spoiler alert. Talia al Ghul. One of the worst
I don't know
ever.
I don't know about her either. I feel like, I mean, do you think I don't know. I don't know if she's a good actress, but it just didn't fit. She didn't fit Talia al Ghul for me, and I don't think he nails her all. I don't know if it's just because she was in Inception, and he's just like, at the end of Inception, he was like, should we all just stay here and film the next Batman film? And he's like giving out, like picking out names out of a hat, and he's like, oh, Talia al Ghul, that'll do for me. Great.
She was pregnant between Inception and Dark Knight Rises, and she gave birth between the two, and I think it was something ridiculous, like she had 3 weeks of not working, and then they bumped all of her scenes to the end of production for Rises, so she just shot it all like right at the very, very end. So hers, it was really, really truncated for her. She was literally just there like the last couple of weeks, and they just blasted through all of her stuff, including that wonderful like death scene in the truck, which I just hate. I've
never understood properly how she dies, because she doesn't it doesn't look so savage that she like smashes into the steering wheel or anything. There's no
no.
It's obviously all an internalized injury, but it doesn't look any worse than when the big truck flips over in Dark Knight. Like that looks worse than this, which like hits fairly all right on the ground, but then she's apparently
it bounces, doesn't it?
Time.
Like it drops from the top road down to the bottom and bounces, and then she's just like
I was like, surely just somebody should have been like, we're just going to put a pole through you, and it will be like something's gone through you and you're dying of an injury, rather than like
just so you know, that's the YouTube clip right there, Neil's impression of Talia al Ghul dying. I just thought I really wanted Bane to kill her. I don't know why I want Bane to kill everyone, but I really wanted, when the reveal happened, I really wanted, although because Bane was struggling at that point when it was revealed, like his mask had been undone and stuff. But I really just wish there was another bit where he was like, you know what, I feel like I've pretty much done all this on my own, and I don't need you anymore. Like, but obviously I get the connection. Like he's obviously, if you look at the pit stuff and everything, like he's her protector, and that's also a pretty good moment as well. I thought her death was pretty weak compared to everything that she had done, and she was only like a villain for a little bit. That's what it felt like as well. It just felt a bit underwhelming, and I just don't think she was. I mean, I didn't know that she was just had a baby and stuff like that. Not that should really make a difference to her role, but and if it was all bundled together and hectic, but I just think they could have cast. I think it was the wrong casting. I actually think Anne Hathaway would have been a pretty good Talia al Ghul. Yeah, she could have been. Because it was all just like I know Catwoman's human, but you take away the Catwoman stuff. Like I said, I like Selina Kyle, so she would have been a good foil for Bruce Wayne for that sort of thing as well. I just thought it was a bit miscast, so it didn't really sit well with me compared to a lot of the other roles. It's a bit like, who was talking in Dark Knight that they didn't think Aaron Eckhart was good? Harvey Dent. Someone was saying that. Was it Harry, or was it you, Nick?
I said I like the casting. I just don't think he should have been in it. I think they should have.
Yeah, then maybe that was it.
Yeah, Two-Face more time.
But again, Talia al Ghul, I get that. Again, you take that character out of this story, don't really have a story. But again, it could have just been a Bane story. Like Bane could have been the main villain. The whole thing.
It didn't feel like they tied. I mean, the whole idea of Talia would be that, well, Bruce was trained by the League of Shadows. He, inadvertently caused the death of the fake Ra's al Ghul and then killed the real Ra's al Ghul, or Raish, depending how you want to pronounce it. And yet it didn't really, like, her whole motivation could have been, you killed my dad. But it didn't really pull through enough. So it was like, well, she's there and she does tie back to your origin from the first film, but only sort of really, like, wishy-washy. Wasn't strong enough that it pulled the whole thing full circle.
It's also a bit of an odd plan, isn't it? Because if her plan is correct, then the plan is that Bane's going to break Batman enough that years are going to pass while he's in a prison to watch Gotham burn. But surely the plan should just be like, we're just going to burn down Gotham. Like, we'll break his back and then we'll just break it. Like, I don't know what, but it felt a bit far-fetched.
Especially considering the amount of time that she'd also invested clearly in setting up her own business that then worked with Wayne Enterprises on a clean energy project that she couldn't have predicted that he would mothball, that she then just left until he re-emerged.
Yeah, so, exactly.
Don't think about it too much. Don't put too much thought into it.
Yeah, no, because it's a good film. Like, this is what we do I do every podcast as well. I'm like, I really like this film. I'm like, oh no, like I can't remember what film it was. There was one that we spoke about and I was like, this is such a good film. And I spent the whole podcast just bad mouthing it.
Civil War.
Was it Civil War? No, you just don't like Civil War. Stupid person.
Yeah, I think you go.
No, I was just trying to say in my head it's like 5 years that he's in the pit, but actually I don't think it's that long.
No,
it must be. It's a lot shorter, I would think. I don't know why I got 5 years in my head.
Yeah, I think it's like
how long is there for?
6 months. I think they say. Doesn't the physicist say that in like if you activate it, you have like 5 months and then
5 months,
6 months or something. But then there's a really weird bit where they show the counter. It's when they're showing the trucks going through Gotham and they show the counter and it's something like 28 hours, 30 minutes and 20 seconds or something. It's like a 3 counter, right? And then they cut to Batman making his way out of the pit. And I was like, wait, that can't.
How's he going to get there?
Yeah, I was like,
get back.
And he's had
30 minutes.
He's not only made it, he's had his shower and everything. He's popped home to get some new clothes. That whole bit, I said it at the beginning, but that bit when he just turns up, it's just like, like, how did you just get here? Like, how did you sneak in? Like, I don't know. There's a lot of it as well. Like, when did he find the time to put that bat signal on the bridge?
Yeah,
like that lights up. There's a lot of, but again, it's awesome. It's a great visual, and I love the ice bit as well. But it's just I don't know. It all happens very quickly when it probably shouldn't be that quick. But it's I think
I think that's my biggest flaw with this film is that it goes too big that it's a nuke. Like I don't think it needs to be that because also just from like a League of Shadows point of view, their whole thing was we're going to burn down Gotham to restart it. And that's what we've done all along is that we've gone and done that. If you nuke a city, that's like
there's nothing left.
Yeah, like nobody's going to be around for a long time to rebuild that place. Like you're fully ending it. Like
I think that's this. I think I like the first half of the film more than the second half. I think I wanted a lot more grumbly old Bruce Wayne. That leg brace thing always makes me flinch though when you hear all this cartilage clicking again. It's like, it doesn't sound good. Like, don't go out there, Bruce. Yeah. But yeah, I think I like the first part more than the second part. I actually think the same about all 3 of those Batman films. Like Dark Knight, I enjoyed the first half because I wasn't that keen on the end of Dark Knight with the sonar system, and I think. Like you just said with the nuke, then I think it's almost like Christopher Nolan's gone too crazy with the endings. It could have been scaled back a little bit and felt probably a bit more, I don't know, normal in a way.
Yeah,
just too much.
I feel like Begins Third Act is pretty like organic. Like I feel like that builds pretty well. I don't think
that's out of the three. I like that second half more, but I like the beginnings more than the second half. All three. I love Batman being trained by Liam Neeson or Ra's al Ghul in the first bit and all that build up to it, and I enjoy all the little Bruce bits as well. I think they're well done with the theme with the bats and everything, and I like the beginning of Dark Knight. I love the bank scene. I love like Joker's original scene, the big beginning scenes he has as well, like the mob scene and everything. And I just think it tails off a bit towards the end, and I think it's just because he puts a lot into it as well. Dark Knight Rises towards the end feels very overstuffed very quickly in those bits.
They rushed through the siege of Gotham quite a lot, really, when you think about it.
Yeah, they did. They really did.
I was looking when you were kind of saying at the beginning that you felt it's quite sort of overstuffed. I looked because I was looking at No Man's Land on the shelf behind me because I couldn't remember how many volumes there are in the collected edition of No Man's Land. Just because that's what I always think of when Gotham is cut off and it's under siege. My brain goes No Man's Land, and that's like 2 prequel volumes with the Contagion and the actual earthquake itself, and then it's like 5 volumes of what happens afterwards.
Yeah.
So it was like a year and a half or something's worth of storytelling in comics, and then to think that you try and distill all of that in the bits that you use down into like a 2.5 hour movie, it's like you just there's not enough.
There's not
enough to do it properly and do it justice.
Yeah, because that's what I get the vibe. Again, I've only seen trailers and read bits about the Batman, but I feel like I get the feeling that it's going to be like a lot like less will be more. Like it's going to be like, okay, Riddler is a perfect foil for Batman. It's because they want to finally go like a proper detective route as well with Batman. So you get the feeling that is going to be, like you've said before, Nick, as well, like the Batman film that we've been waiting for a long time. It's going to be hopefully a bit of the best of everything. Not the 66 Batman, not the Joel Schumacher Batman. Maybe, I don't know. But not like the bat nipples or anything, but just like a bit of Christopher Nolan with a bit of Tim Burton. Like that's what I'm hoping the Batman being. I think you're right, Neil, as well. I think they've crammed far too much of No Man's Land and Nightfall and stuff into Dark Knight Rises, and that's where it loses its footing a little bit at the end for me. So
it feels like it's trying to like adhere to a lot of the source material, as well as at the same time act as like the conclusion and the third film in a trilogy. So it's like you usually find with a conclusion or whatever that they'll tie it back to the first film, because that's sort of how you link your emotional current, is that it's like you've tied it all together. And I feel like those moments work really well in this because it's the reference to the jacket, it's the reference to like Alfred over the years, you've got a lot of heart there. But then the actual core like Batman story is just too much that you're kind of like, okay. And then it keeps giving you like little bits where you're like, this is great. And then it goes really big again and you're like, oh, it's sort of like letting me down a little bit. I definitely think that second half it's not convoluted, but it's problematic, I think. It's
probably the best way to describe it.
Yeah, I think it's doing way too much than it should.
I like the Batman chalk bits as well. I like the kid, obviously, and they've kept that going with the markings as well. And I love the fact that even after all the rough stuff that's going on, like Batman is still the symbol that they gravitate towards and they want. Like they hope or like he's still a symbol after all that time. Like, because am I right? I mean, I only saw it last week, but they all think he's dead. Or they're just waiting. They're just hoping he comes back.
Yeah, they're hoping he comes back.
No, that's at the beginning. They're hoping he comes back. They want him to, because Joseph Gordon-Levitt, and then later on in the film, they're not sure where he is.
Oh yeah, because doesn't one of them say? The kid says, "Do you think he's coming?" And Gordon-Levitt's like, "Just keep your eye peeled," kind of thing.
Yeah. I do like that bit as well when Batman and Joseph Gordon-Levitt, when it's, the villains are all ganging up on Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character, and then Batman shows up as well. I like that scene as well. Like Joseph Gordon-Levitt being a bit starstruck almost that Batman's there in uniform as well, and doing his Batman voice.
Yeah.
Curious. Even by that point he knows he's already put together, hasn't he? Because obviously he's at Wayne Manor like, hey, we need Batman back. And he's like, I don't know what you're talking about, mate. Like, I'm pretty sure you're Batman. No.
Yeah.
So
no.
Yeah. I don't know what you mean. Giving it away. Did you think that there's a character? Oh, wait, I hope I've not mixed these up now. The guy who tries to blackmail Lucius Fox, is that in Dark Knight?
That's Dark Knight.
That's Dark Knight, isn't it? Because I was thinking about it earlier. It's because I watched Dark Knight recently as well. I actually watched Dark Knight because you were watching Dark Knight, Neil. Did you watch Dark Knight last week? Was it?
Yeah, I did. I watched them all really recently. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, I'm going to watch the Dark Knight as well, just because it's easily accessible on HBO Max now. So and I watched it. That's why I've got them mixed up. But I just always assumed that was the Riddler as well, but it wasn't. So I wanted it to be the Riddler.
What happened to him in those years in between films? Why did he not appear between films and go, oh, you're after Batman? Oh, it's Bruce Wayne. Yeah,
where's he gone? So Lucius Fox didn't have a big role in Dark Knight Rises, though, did he? It was like his least. I know he's not a big time player.
That was not long after he'd had that really big car accident in.
Oh, was it? Okay.
In real life, yeah, because it's after his one hand was paralyzed. So there's a lot of framing in this that cuts away from his one arm that's really, really weak. I think you can only see it when he's climbing the ladder with Miranda Tate down to the bunker. You can see that he can't use one hand. So I think he was still kind of in rehab after his car accident. So
I didn't know that. That makes sense as well then.
I think that might be why he's got a slightly reduced role in this one, because he couldn't quite get in the action as much as maybe he would have before.
Yeah. It's a shame, isn't it, that with Heath Ledger as well? I know we spoke about this before as well, but it would have been awesome. I know I said about recurring characters, but I wonder what this film would have been like if he was still around. I wonder if he would have been included, and if he would have been like, there would have been some sort of scene with him.
Arkham or something.
That's what I thought. Would you go to Arkham?
Because we didn't go to Arkham in the second one, did we? We only saw it in the first one. Mm-hmm. So maybe we would have gone back there and kind of tied up the loop on that one and just seen where that was at the end.
Yeah, I would have really liked that. That's why I think I wish was in this film as well. Some of the Joker bit as well. So I'm not talking like Batman Forever, where Bane breaks into the prison. You've got all the outfits of all the villains, which is pretty cool. But so that's a shame that he wasn't involved, or he was obviously not around for it.
I know one thing that I haven't mentioned, actually, that I was I think I mentioned it to you, didn't I, Nick, where I said I kind of wish that they had done the audio on the home video so that you actually got the feeling of the bat.
Yeah.
Because I remember watching it in the cinema, and when Batman runs into that alleyway and it's completely pitch black and then the lights come up and the hovercraft kicks in, I remember it rattling my chest and being like, this is amazing.
Yeah.
I love that vehicle. And you just don't get it on home video quite like you did at the cinema.
No, definitely not. It was really cool the first time that came out of the alleyway. Really good. I love the fact they used all the vehicles as well, like over the course of the trilogy. Like I like the fact like Tumbler got a spotlight, and then the Batwing, no, not the Batwing, the Bat, and before that the Batpod in the second one. So really cool. I love that moment as well. I wish you got the same feeling you did at home as well.
I did learn one fact about that, actually. Here's a fun fact for you from reading my big Bat book. So when they do the scene where Bruce and Selina are in the Bat and it's up on the rooftop where he kind of flies off with her, they actually took apart the vehicle, carried it up in an elevator, like a service elevator in this apartment block in New York, reconstructed it on the roof, and that is actually genuinely a cityscape behind them. They were like, any other director would have green screened this, but Chris was like, no, you're going to take that apart, you're going to carry it up there, and we're going to shoot on that rooftop. And they really did. So they were actually like hanging off the side of a building in that practical craft.
I do remember seeing all the set photos of the Bat, and remember thinking that's really cool that they've made something that's practical. Like, it went around on a car, did it?
Yeah.
Is that how they did it? They had a car that drove it around.
Yeah, because it's always quite low down, isn't it? In the street scenes.
And I thought that was quite cool that like at least you've kind of gone through the effort to like build an actual thing that people can see, and like at least it's not just all green screen. I thought that was really nice. I understand green screen sometimes, but there are so many, like that show that my wife is watching, the whatever sequel to Sex and the City is. It was literally a scene where this
main character, she's in an apartment building, but it's green screen behind her. Just in that show, because you just know, because there's nothing going on. It's just like, why can't you just go to an apartment? But the fact that they've lifted this bat in a lift, that's pretty insane. That just hearing that is like, why? Surely there was some other way of doing it. Surely they could have
like lift it up on a crane. Surely
lift it up on a crane. Yeah, choose a little bit of a lower building, maybe. But fair play. I love the fact that they've done that. That's awesome. I mean, some of those shots in the Batman trilogies are just amazing, aren't they? In all three of them are just fantastic. So it's beautiful, like the snow stuff in Batman Begins, and the Dark Knight. I know we said about the bank robbery scene in Chicago, just looks like Chicago, but it's still well shot.
It is really well shot. Yeah.
So,
what
else was on your list, Nick?
So one of the other things that I thought just helped with this film that made me feel like it was again Gotham, and again sort of in the mythos of Batman, which I think Dark Knight, I said at the time I missed, is the Batcave. I understand like narratively why he doesn't have it in Dark Knight, but I feel like the like big open space thing underground, I don't know, it just doesn't. It feels more like an undercover cop base in Dark Knight. It feels like something where they're like running a sting and they're like, we've got this secret thing set up in a container. Whereas in this, like actually having the Batcave back and it being like a whole moving set and having things, it just feels like, okay, this is Batman. Like it's very much in the world. And I think that sort of added to my thing of like, oh, I'd completely forgotten the Batcave was in this. And it just, I enjoyed that. I enjoyed having that back and it kind of feeling like Gotham again. And
I love that it came out of the water.
Yeah.
It's so cool.
Yeah. It's done so well. And also I think linked to that as well, like Alfred's not in this whole lot, but the scenes he is in are like really powerful. Like he delivers some amazing dialogue. Michael Caine is just top form. And I think him and Oldman are the two that throughout the whole trilogy I'm just constantly kind of enamored with, because I think they just own
they're the MVPs, aren't they? They're the two they're the two big I don't know, the screen presence and everything. I mean, Michael Caine, when he's talking to Bruce on the stairs, when he's saying about the letter and everything from
Rachel,
that's the one. That's a pretty powerful scene. Like you actually feel bad, and you feel like, because we were saying obviously Bruce Wayne is a bit of a dick, like especially in this one, and he's just, I don't know, I just felt bad for Alfred, and he's so sad, poor Alfred, and he just wants the best for Bruce as well. And you've got to think at this point he's put up with a lot of crap as well, like all the stuff like patching him up and going like helping him. Because in Dark Knight, bearing in mind he's in that makeshift Batcave with him, and he's doing all these things with him, and he's helping him, even though it's risky, even though like he's already lost two people that he cared about in Thomas and Martha, and now he's supposed to be helping raise the son and look after him, and he's, it's like a mother worrying about their son when they go out at night or whatever, or the daughter, like you don't want them to get hurt or do something stupid, but Bruce is doing this stuff, and the fact that he's pushed Alfred to his limit is it's pretty powerful stuff.
Yeah, the funeral scene's great as well at the end of Rises. I think Michael Caine's amazing in that scene.
Yeah, definitely.
Presumably, the way I look at that scene is that he doesn't at that point know that Bruce may or may not be alive. And that is genuine grief rather than him putting on a show for anyone that might be there.
But I think they say it like that as well. That makes me feel even more unsure about the cafe scene at the end, because I'm sure you would just raise a cup to him, but if you didn't know, again, now I'm just even more confused. And I'll just think about like maybe he did know the graveyard scene, but then I don't know.
Before it, though, isn't it? Just narratively, like, he's at the funeral.
The graveyard scene is before the cafe scene.
Yeah.
So
narratively,
at that point,
he wouldn't have any question that Bruce is alive.
Oh, so when he's at the cafe, then in the cafe scene, do you think that's the moment that's the moment Alfred learns that Bruce is alive, or do you think okay?
But then surely you wouldn't just like raise your glass. You'd be like,
you would throw that chair and be like, what the
Bruce, you son of a bitch.
Because his point to Bruce is that he's like, I always wanted more for you, that I wanted a life that's outside of this. And that was the whole reason that he walked away, that he was like, you're on a mission to like basically end your life. And so I always took it as like, when Alfred sees him there, rather than him be like, let's get back together, it's like him going, you've done it. Like, you've made the decision to move away from me and from Gotham, and you're there. And Bruce knowing that Alfred would go to this cafe, also tied it all off. That it's like Bruce would have the foresight to go, okay, so every year, fuck it, let's go.
I'm putting my hand up, right? Like I'm at school, because how long was Bruce waiting at that cafe for?
No, as in like,
Just guessing?
Because Alfred said every year around the same time I'd go to the same cafe.
Yeah, he does say he goes the same time every year.
But,
but Bruce is a detective, right?
Specify.
So it's not going to be hard for him to be like, okay, where the fuck's Alfred been going? Like,
no, but it's not about that. It's about the time as well, isn't it? Like, Selina's probably got plans to do. She's probably like a busy person. She wants to go out and about. But Bruce is like, no, we got to sit in this cafe.
They're both holidays.
Because around this time of year, Alfred's going to be there. And I'm not going to text him. This is going to be he's going to lose his shit when he sees me, Selina. And then he's just like, I was disappointing. Doesn't even seem that excited to see me.
Like, fair enough.
He raised me from a child, and all he's doing is just cheers.
It's just step of me. Jesus Christ, I'm going back to Gotham. Stupid. So I'm just as confused. I like to think he's dead.
I'm with you. If he wasn't, let's say if he wasn't, would you have liked to have seen him appear alongside Henry Cavill Superman if Warner Brothers could have convinced them to make it work?
No.
Yes.
I agree.
Tonally, they're just too different. I also didn't realize, because this was 2012, Man of Steel was 2013.
Yeah.
I was like, that's crazy that within a year you got...
We were onto...
like Man of Steel.
I mean, that's because the success wasn't it? So like, hey, Chris, like, want to hop on this bandwagon with Zack Snyder? It's going to be great. And be like, yeah, I'll produce that. Like, sure. Yeah. Is it going to be like dark in tone? Yep.
It's going to be fucking dark.
Like, if they're going to be any sort of twist, we're going to kill Zod. Whoa. Shit. Count me in.
Yeah.
And so I thought it would have been cool to see those two on screen together. I thought. I mean, I like Christian Bale's Batman more than Ben Affleck's Batman.
No.
Even if Ben Affleck's Batman has the best Batman scene ever in the warehouse.
Several as well. Like
but no, I prefer Christopher. I prefer Ben Affleck's voice as Batman.
Yeah.
I like Dark Knight Batman more than Ben Affleck Batman. So, but no one is as good as George Clooney Batman.
This is true. Yeah. I'm disappointed that they chose Keaton to come back over Clooney, because Clooney needs a second chance.
Imagine if in the Flash film George Clooney's Batman shows up. That would be just top. Like,
they asked Affleck that recently, because they just did that film The Tender Bar together.
Okay.
And somebody said, is Clooney in it? And he was like, if he is, nobody's told me. But
yeah. It's like, I didn't see him on set, but you never know.
Yeah.
I'd love it. I just love it if he was in it. Great. It would be so good. Anyway, but probably not. So wrapping up then, out of a score of, do we normally do 10? I never remember our rating system. Out of 10, what'd you give it? Dark Knight Rises.
I will give it an 8 consistently OKs.
So one more than Dark Knight.
One above Dark Knight.
Nice. Neil?
I think I'd probably go 8 as well, actually.
And what would you do for Batman Begins and Dark Knight, out of curiosity? Like, where do they fall on your rating scale?
Dark Knight, I would probably give a 7, and Begins, I would probably give an 8. So I think this for me is kind of on par with Begins and better than Dark Knight.
I would probably give it a 7, I think.
Ooh.
Definitely a lot of those numbers in that 7 is the Bane breaking Batman in half. But I do really like it, but I prefer Dark Knight, which God hope I give a higher rating than 7 in the other podcasts. I think I gave it
I think you gave it like an 8 or a 9. I don't think we even forgot for Batman Begins. I think we forgot. But I would give Begins a 9 out of 10.
I would give Begins an 8 out of 10. Oof. I like the fact that we are on a consistently okay podcast. We're not consistent with anything at all.
No.
Other than, consistently like not sticking to like the plan that we have for the podcast. But So yeah, so awesome. So anything else to cover, guys? I know we just give it a rating, but it would be typical of us now to start at the beginning. Like, what do you think of the opening credits?
What about the score?
Banger. Score is great.
Score is good. Yeah.
Score is good. Very, very good.
I love considering the characterization is maybe not the best, I do love the piano motif that goes with Anne Hathaway's Catwoman.
Yes. That is really good as well. I do like it.
The only thing I don't like is the weird chanting for Bane.
Oh, no, yeah, I was going to say that about the pit, because that's the thing about the pit. So here we are. Now we're just going into it again. The pit scene has just got so much stuff that's just not going for it. Like the jump bit, the chanting with the jump. And I generally think they're chanting because that was in the trailer. It was like the beginning of the trailer was like, oh, ha, ha. It's like, what the fuck is going on here? And then when you actually see it, it's just like, I just didn't like the chanting. I didn't like the pit. The only bit I liked in the pit was when you saw Bane for the first time, when he's all wrapped up and stuff. Or he's been, he's protecting Talia al Ghul. But yeah, just chanting was just feels really out of place. And not enough people are trying to jump as well.
Yeah.
Just try. Someone else, give it a go. Don't just wait. Don't practice your chanting. Give it a go. I'd be trying every day. I might die. But I don't want to be in a pit anymore.
The fall that he does as well, where he like misses and he's got the rope attachment and he falls. I don't know how the rope doesn't then break his back again.
The Gwen Stacy moment right there.
Yeah, like surely the strength of that, based on him falling, would like damage you. Like you wouldn't just
probably. But then in all that logic, if he doesn't die and he doesn't break his back, then everyone else should be trying, because everyone could try with a rope. Like, yeah. It's just like the fact that they're not queuing up like lemmings to try and jump off this thing is just balmy to me. Just do it. I mean, bear in mind, he's just broke his back. I know he's in good condition. He's doing press ups every day, but there's plenty of time to do press ups. Anyone could try it, but no, just didn't like the pit thing. Didn't like the fact that he got out of the pit and then 2 days, 24 hours later, he's in Gotham, clean shaven and feeling good about his life. Yeah. I don't know. And then he's fighting Bane as well pretty soon after that. Whereas, he couldn't beat Bane in his first go, let alone being in a pit for 5 months. Let's not talk about the pit anymore, guys. And they've got a TV down there.
A very old TV.
It's a very old TV as well, but good signal. Yeah, it's all sorts of stuff. Just watching the news all day, it'd be fine. Just
until Bruce breaks it. He breaks their TV. What about the people who left there?
What a dick! That guy's in his prison. He's helping Bruce get back on his feet. All he had was the TV, and Bruce is talking about he's going to go and save Gotham. He doesn't even get to find out, does he?
No, he doesn't get the end of the story.
Stupid pit. Anyway, so that's I guess that's a good note to leave this on. I think we wrapped up nicely. We all give it a solid score out of 10, but bloody pit scene.
Yeah.
Cool. Wow. Thank you very much for joining us, Neil.
Thanks for having me back.
And I'm sure you'll be back for a future podcast sooner rather than later, as we love having you on. So that would be awesome. Whatever we decide to do, fingers crossed. Maybe next time I would have seen Spider-Man. Who knows?
Hopefully.
Cool. All right. That's the end of this episode. You can find us on social media, Twitter and Instagram at Consistently Pod, and on YouTube by simply searching for Consistently OK Podcast. We stream on all podcast services. If you're an Apple Podcast subscriber, you subscribe for extra content. All right. So our next episode is going to be just one of our normal pop culture episodes, and we're going to be talking about Hawkeye, the end of Hawkeye, amongst other things, some films you've seen, Nick, some films I've seen, and all sorts going on in the world pop culture wise. So that will be out.
That's
Heels,
a big one,
which I've not seen, but maybe by the time we record, I might have seen it.
Be prepared. I've got so much to say about it. So yes.
But you're going to watch Peacemaker, right? Even though I said you weren't that excited about it.
Yeah, I'll give it a watch. Nice. I'm not sure it's going to be for me, but I will watch it.
That's the spirit. All right, great. Well, we will catch all of you next time, and thanks for joining us.
Cheers. Catch you in a bit. Bye.
Bye.